Hello and welcome to a new episode in Sadhana World Foundation. As you know, we care about crafting young lives. We present stories from the lessons in history and our folk tales focused on moral values. We think that these stories carry immense teaching in them, which help our young children and young adults to grow into stronger and better human beings. They can be rooted strongly on moral values and principles, which help them make better decisions in life. Today, I picked up a story from the epic Ramayana to illustrate how to balance logic with emotions. If you see many things that we do in our lives, whether it is to purchase something from the market, you are trying to bargain, you are trying to negotiate with the seller, or it is about an information that you want from somebody, you are trying various methods to extract that information, or you have access to some classified information based on which you can do something better than your counterparts. How do you deal with some of these situations? Do you go by emotions? Do you go by logic? Do you use both of them? Of course, most of us use both of them. But what kind of balancing that we do with both of them makes us all different. These situations happen every day in our lives. We want something from our teachers, we want something from our manager, from our parents, from our friends. How do we deal with this? Do we use logic? Do we use emotion? Sometimes we have access to an information which could really help us as well as others. Do I share that information with my close friends? What happens if the close friend comes to know after some time that I did not share this information with him or her? And so on. Many such situations. As you all know, that this epic Ramayana is about the King Dashrath and his family, about a kingdom called Ayodhya in India. Dashrath was a nice king, kind and loved by all his countrymen, also respected highly by his peers. He had 3 queens. He used to like one of them the most. She was Kaikeyi, for her bravery, for the character that she was. She used to accompany King Dashrath in his military expeditions, and Kaikeyi was of great help in helping Dashrath winning the wars. In one such tough battle, Kaikeyi was of great help, and Dashrath of course won the war. In return, Dashrath had granted 2 boons to Kaikeyi, and Kaikeyi had reserved the right to exercise those 2 boons when she felt like. And Dashrath had granted this special privilege to Kaikeyi, because Kaikeyi, after all, is his most favorite queen. The time came when Dashrath was selecting his successor. Naturally, as the tradition has always been, the eldest son of Dashrath was about to be the king of Ayodhya. Then started the twist in this story. Kaikeyi had an assistant called Manthara. Now Manthara started telling stories to Kaikeyi and encouraging her to exercise the 2 boons that she hasn't exercised so far. Manthara created an impression in Kaikeyi's mind that Ram is not her own son. If Ram becomes the king, Ram's mother will become much more important than Kaikeyi, and Kaikeyi's position will go down in the eyes of the people in the kingdom, eyes of Dashrath, eyes of the new king who is Ram. So maybe Kaikeyi will be ill-treated. That was a sense of fear, anger in the minds of Kaikeyi. Look at the play of emotions which are happening in the minds of Kaikeyi. Also, Manthara said that your son, Bharat, will now become less important, and this is the time to use the two boons that have been granted to her and send Ram away into the jungle so that Bharat can become the king and Ram is not in the picture. Kaikeyi liked this idea, though Kaikeyi used to like Ram a lot. She used to treat Ram as her own son. Look at this thinking, the thoughts in her mind. She was scared of the future, the picture which Manthara was painting. And same time, she was possibly jealous of her peers, that is the other two queens, particularly Ram's mother, Kaushalya. This is the second emotion. So one was fear, jealousy, and thirdly, it's also blind love for her own son. She would like to see her own son become the king, not the other queen's son. So various emotions came into the picture and Kaikeyi exercised her rights. Now think of Maharaj Dashrath, the King Dashrath. King Dashrath is, of course, well respected, very learned, very kind, affectionate, and all the good qualities that you can think of are there with King Dashrath. Now whatever King Dashrath will do will become a matter of historical evidence for the future generations, and hence King Dashrath had to decide whether to agree, whether to honor the words that he has given earlier. Being the king, his primary motive is to stay true to his words. That's where he draws his power, he draws his respect from. So Dashrath had to honor his words. Though Dashrath used to love Ram the most amongst all the four sons that he had, and Ram also deserved the throne. Ram was well educated, was very kind, was loved by the king, by the people of the kingdom, and everybody was extremely happy to get Ram as their future king. Yet Dashrath had to honor his words and had to let Ram go to the jungle and Bharat become the king. So look at what's happening in Dashrath's mind. Dashrath on one hand is feeling helpless, frustrated, also disappointed that his decision in the past of the special privilege that he had granted to Kaikeyi are being misused at this point of time, and Dashrath possibly would be going through a lot of anger inside his mind for a decision that he had taken out of, again, an emotion of love towards his wife. And he is also bound by his responsibility and duty, the load of expectation of his of his countrymen and his peers of that time. So he had to live in that present moment, and he let it happen. Though he was not happy about it, but he had to do it because he was wearing the responsibility of being a king first and later a father. Now look at Ram himself, the character. What do you think a young man and able, deserving, and possibly somebody who has the right to the throne go through when one is faced with this kind of a shocking order? What do you think a young man of today's time will do? Will possibly start a revolt against the father, or against the kingdom, or against Kaikeyi, or will challenge the decision, will argue. But look at the behaviors of Ram in that story. What does Ram do? Ram stays calm. Ram says that this is your kingdom, your throne, your crown. You have to decide who you have to give. You have decided that it will be Bharat. I love my younger brother. So it's fine. Let Bharat become the king. I have a new life in the jungle. Ram stays in that moment. He thinks that he will try to do the most out of that opportunity. He calls it an opportunity that he has to live in the jungle for 14 long years and would possibly has to spend the prime of his youth, the prime of his time which he would have spent as the king of Ayodhya in the jungle amongst the rishis and the tigers, the animals, the birds, the flowers, the trees, and all other beings who are there in the jungle. He says that it's a new life I am willing to explore. I look forward to it, and I will honor your decision because I am your son, you are my father, you are the king of Ayodhya. Your decision is final. We as citizens of this country obey or follow your instructions. Your instructions are the final. He doesn't feel sad about it. I don't know whether all of this is true or false, but with using these three characters, we have a lot to learn from this. I think the example set before us is every time we cannot decide things in our life based on just logic or intelligence. The wisdom is the balance between intelligence and your emotion. Dashrath could understand that he had made mistakes in his life by granting boons which can be exercised subsequently. Also, Dashrath suffers from the load of that wrong decision and dies in a few months of this decision. So that's the mistake that he did, while his son Ram doesn't suffer from any of these. He lives in the present. He is trying to make the most out of whatever he has got at his hands. Kaikeyi, of course, is a character which shows us what not to do. She operated only from the paradigm of emotions. Dashrath evaluated both, went with the logical approach, but understood that in the past he was emotional, and out of that emotional dimension he had done a few things which he should not have done. Now, Lord Ram's behaviors are possibly the benchmark that we all need to think about. So in our day-to-day lives, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we have to always balance the logical approach versus the emotional approach. Match them two. Find the perfect balance between the two and move further. I looked at a video by our Prime Minister Narendra Modi where he speaks about emotional intelligence. He also talks about the importance of emotional intelligence for success in life. So for success, like Ram is of course an extremely successful character, inspirational character. He has balanced, he was wise. He has balanced his intelligence with his emotion. That's why he has success. I hope you liked today's video. Look forward to our future conversations. Thank you very much.